Welcome back, you Filthy Exiles. Alright, I uploaded this video a few days ago and I didn't like it, so I took it down and thought I'd reassess. Anyway, this is my theory craft for the next league. Now, I know that the patch notes aren't out and I cop that shit every single league, but realistically, they're not really going to change this too much. They didn't change it last league very much around the Duelist Ascendancy, so, you know, let's just move past that one. Anyway, so our theory craft, and this was asked for by a few guys that I was streaming to the other night and we were having to play around with. The build tree around the Cyclone build that I was playing in SSF and just happened to get chain hook up over a few mil DPS. And I've done some tweaks to this and whatnot to make this a little more interesting with Impale and Bleed. Anyway, this is potentially a build that I'm going to play in the next league just to basically troll. Pretty much it's a troll build, so yeah, be wary. So you might be asking, what is chain hook? Well, let's have a look. So this is another PoE, and this is chain hook. So basically, it is somewhat of a clunky skill. I had to play with it the other day, and you chain to enemies and yeah, smack into them. Now we'll get this to where it gets to the boss. As you can see, it's an interesting type of build. It's definitely not very meta. Some would argue it's not very good, but we're going to make it good. We're going to make it a meta this league. So anyway, this is bossing. Basically, you just Basically, you just latch onto the boss and then you just keep hitting. And if you've got enough attack speed, like, you know, it does some good damage. As you can see, that he's just basically tanking through. This is a Gladiator 2 that this guy's playing. Like, it's not bad at all. It's quite interesting and looks like a lot of fun and very different. I just want to see him kill the boss. There we go, he's got the boss. Alright, that's escapism, by the way. So, how did we structure our tree? Well, we've done, I don't know what his tree was, I didn't check his tree, but our tree we've managed to push up to 2.3 million DPS. 500,000 of that is Impale. We've got 200k plus Bleed Dot, and that can be increased depending on, you know, the gems that or the jewels that you use and other gems and whatnot. This is simply just putting together a bit of a skeleton, so you know you can get chain hook working. And by no means, I don't think that this is unrealistic at all. There's no dodgy settings ticked here. It is Shape a Guardian DPS that's selected and POB Fork. We will max out 3 frenzy charges easily with Blood Rage. We're going to maim enemies with the proc of Flesh and Stone. So, you know, there's nothing, an enemy is going to be bleeding because we're going to be applying bleed. So, so there's nothing here that would indicate that, you know, that it won't work. So anyway, how do we get to this? What did we do here? Well, first of all, we're going to go and play the Duelist. Now, for this to work, we're going to use the Gladiator, and there's a reason why I wanted to use a Gladiator with this build and make it really interesting and give bleed significance in this build. Anyway, from a tree perspective, it's quite simple. We're basically just going to build into this first area down to Golem's Blood. We'll then build up and we'll take the sword nodes up here, Brutal Blade and Fatal Blade. That's going to give us a lot of crit and it's going to give us more block chance. Then we're going to come down and we're going to take these nodes in here, picking up Crimson Dance. Crimson Dance is what does most of our DPS here. As you can see, it goes from 53,000 all the way up to 213,000. That one's conditional to enemies not moving, and basically what it does is it inflicts bleeding 8 times on an enemy, but does 50% less damage with bleeding, so it's like a ×4 multiplier, which is why it goes from 53 to 213 approximately. So anyway, we're going to come down, we're going to pick up Blade of the Cunning, and then also bearing in mind we're going to pick up Bloodletting, we're going to pick up Red Storm, we're going to pick up Razor's Edge. That's all going to give us Bleed Dot multiplier. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We're going to obviously get shield. We're going to be using a foil or a one-handed sword, and with crit multi, and we're going to be using a shield as well. So we want to max out block chance. So, and you know, we'll pick up Born to Fight up here, and then we'll come up and scoop up these crit nodes just to increase our crit further. So that's pretty much the build, the tree in a nutshell. Now, what makes this build special is, number one, we have a max block build, 75% block chance, so it'll be quite sustainable, very survivable. We're looking at about a 5k plus health pool, which is good on a max block character, though it's not necessarily necessary. You can get away with doing a max block character with about 4,000 HP. And then on top of that, we're actually going to run Gratuitous Violence, which means when we chain hook onto things and we proc our bleed, when the enemy dies, it's going to do 10% of their maximum life as physical damage. So this is like having a built-in explodey chest into the Ascendancy. Now, obviously, if you were to craft an explodey chest for this build, using the Crusader mod, which is they drop from Baran or whatnot, then you know you'll be able to do explodey chest, and then you won't need Gratuitous Violence, and you can take, you know, Arena Challenger, and that's going to buff up your attack speed significantly. But in this case, we're going to use Gratuitous Violence because it's a shortcut. Now, this tree has no cluster jewels at all, and we get to 2.3 mil DPS. And obviously, you know, dot damage, everything can be pushed. As far as jewel wise, I've ripped out any jewels that would cost any significant amount. Really only uses 2 jewels, and that's a very large thread of hope. The reason why is we want to be able to pick up this dismembering, we want to pick up retaliation, and we want to pick up hemato. I can never pronounce it, so fuck it. We want to pick up this node anyway. So we want to pick up all of those nodes. Ooh, gladiatorial combat. I wonder if there's a way that we can get that as well. We'll flesh that one out potentially. Anyway, so basically you want to pick up the, you know, there's not really very much as far as gemming goes. Now, itemization, skills are very straightforward. You know, you're going to be obviously running chain hook. Now, I put Impale on this, but you can run, you know, chance to bleed or something like that. It's, you know, you can really think up what you want with this one. It's quite easy to scale. Flesh and Stone, Blood and Sand are mandatory. You know, Immortal Call, but realistically, we've got 12k armor, so you could run Molten Shell or Val Molten Shell, and that'd still be good as well. Or Steel Skin, any of the guard skills really are going to work on this quite well. You've got blocks, so you can do whatever you want. War Banner and Precision, and you're going to max out Precision as well. We want that crit and accuracy, so we can get as close to 100% as possible. You'll have Blood Rage. Normally with Blood Rage though, it's a little different to this tree. What I'll end up doing, I'll link that in with my cast when damage taken, and then, you know, basically every time you get hit, you'll proc Blood Rage. Now, because it's block, you may not proc Blood Rage as much as you want, so having it as an activatable skill is probably more of a preference in this circumstance though. This damage is scaled up by Ancestral War Chief as well, so obviously that gives us a big chunk of our DPS as well. So very contingent on that, but yeah. Vulnerability, if you were to get something, now I've removed vulnerability to calculate this DPS as well as Assassin Mark, but if you were to get vulnerability, something that could proc it, or maybe you'll get Reckoning and you'll have Reckoning do a curse when, you know, curse on hit effect or something like that. DPS, you can flog that right up to, you know, close to the 2.5 mil mark. It's just going to push you up a little further, and also your bleed and impale are going to increase substantially as well, especially bleed. It scales really well with vulnerability. Assassin's Mark, same thing. Obviously you get that. If you're able to get both and have a multi-curse, you get close to 3 mil DPS, easy. And what's our bleed? Our bleed gets up to 245,000 dot, which is 200,000 is a decent amount of dot. 245,000 is better. Itemization, this is very well itemized. I pulled the initial tree off a PoE ninja build for a Cyclone build, and I liked it, so I basically rejigged it a bit to make it work with chain hook and theory craft chain hook in here. But I've removed the bottled faith because I'm mindful that not everyone can afford a bottled faith. So no bottled faith in this build, just a lion's roar and a diamond flask and a sulfur flask. So, you know, you can get all of those relatively easily in League. The only unique jewel is Thread of Hope. Aside from that, the gearing is quite good. You're pretty much going to be looking for physical damage, attack speed, and crit multi, and accuracy if you can get it, and crit chance. That's really it. That's as complicated as the build's going to get. In any other, shields or whatever, you're going to want to get max. You want to max out. You're going to want to max out resist with that. And max out health, and anywhere where you can fit in physical damage and crit multi, that's where you want to be basically. This can be played with as much as you want. You could even ditch the shield and go dual foil. It's up to you. Dual foil would work quite well. 2 swords. And then make a few tweaks to the tree. It's really up to you what you want to do. Now, some of these items are pretty crazy powerful. But don't get disheartened by that. It's not terribly difficult to craft this stuff in League. Physical damage is quite easy, and a lot of it you can just craft with jagged, or you can use jagged fossils and craft your way through that with that. So it's all doable to some degree. You're probably not going to get it perfectly. Like, this is a guy that's probably played 400 hours on this character. But you can get it pretty damn close, and it's a bit of a skeleton to get you up there. There's plenty of other ways that you can gear. You might get a Rice Lythan's Coil or whatever it's called, and that's going to give you more physical damage. Your amulet, you might use an Presence for your amulet, something like that. There's a ton of different ways that you can achieve this. Now, this build doesn't even have Pride, so if you can fit Pride into this build, even better. That's going to give you more DPS. Herald of Purity is going to give you more DPS if you can fit it in. This is just a skeleton to get you started, but basically it's a 2.5 mil skeleton to get you started. And you know what? It could be a lot of fun in League, quite frankly. It probably will be a lot of fun and completely trolly and potentially work. But basically, yeah, the whole idea of this build is to hook an enemy, and then basically, as you hook enemies, they explode all over the map. So I haven't tried it yet. It's a theory craft, and the community has asked me to put this video back up, so I've decided to re-record it for you guys, and I'll put the POB in the description. You can tell me if you think it's shit. You can tell me if you think it's a cool concept, and if anyone wants to give it a shot, you're more than welcome to. Everything here in the build is up for you to use and play with. But yeah, bit of a troll build, bit of a fun build, just to make PoE a little bit more exciting, without trying to force a chain hook build. I saw a video where someone had tried to force a chain hook build just for the sake of doing it. This is actually to have fun. So yeah, see how you go. You may only be able to do T16 maps with this, but I'm pretty confident you'll be able to do T16 maps. You'll probably be able to do Cyrus at the first Awakener level. Who knows, you might be able to do Cyrus even at a higher level if you can really scale it. But anyway, if you like this video, if it's a cool concept, like and sub. If you think that this build concept is shit, you can dislike me. Some hardcores will probably dislike me because I put a build theory up for, what was it, the next patch variant, 3.12 or whatever it is. You know what, don't care. Go crazy, dislike away. I think it's really cool. I don't think the tree is going to change significantly. It never does. Gearing never changes so drastically that it's not usable. And this build has worked on cycling. This tree's worked on cyclone builds for quite some time, and will continue to work because it just works. Anyway, until next time,